Okay, so hello there. This is John Felix from Full Cooperation talking with Dan from Paleo Gaming. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing, John?
I'm just fine. So before we get into you as the leader of Paleo Gaming, the organization, because that's what you are to Paleo people, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Dan?
All right. I'm actually a geologist by trade. That's my day job, so to speak. I work for an environmental consulting firm. So we do things like help clean up fuel oil spills and monitor air quality, drinking water, groundwater. We do soil characterization. We do a lot of different things. But I got my bachelor's degree in geology and then went to Stony Brook to pursue a master's in biology. And I fell back on my first love to become a geologist. In my free time, I'm a martial artist. I'm a surfer, and obviously I enjoy online video games. And I am happily married. We've got a 2-year-old puppy, and no kids yet, but eventually.
All in good time, right? Okay, so how did you get into geology?
Geology, actually, I've always loved dinosaurs from the time I was very, very young. And I never thought I would end up a geologist. I actually went to Hofstra University originally planning on becoming a lawyer. And within the first month of me being there, I went into New York City to see a play through the Hofstra Honors College. And I met Dr. Brett Bennington. And the two of us spoke, and I shared my love of dinosaurs, and he told me that if you love something, that you'll be good at it, and if you're good at it, someone will hire you. And those words were pretty inspirational. So I ended up, within the next week or two, changing my major to geology and never looked back.
Yeah, well, that seems like solid advice. So what's your favorite dinosaur then?
Yeah, my favorite dinosaur is probably not a normal choice for people. It's actually Parasaurolophus, which is a hadrosaur. It's got this big crest that comes off the back of its head. But not the normal T-Rex or a Apatosaurus, or those are usually your fanfare dinosaurs. But no, I'll take my duckbill any day.
Not the starring cast of Jurassic Park, then.
Right. The only real reference to a parasaur was in Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World, in which Roland Tembo refers to one as the Pompadour, Elvis.
Did you ever play the Lost World Sega Mega Drive game?
I did actually.
Yeah.
I've even played the Game Boy original Jurassic Park game, which was not a terribly good game, but was entertaining.
Oh, Jesus. I'm sitting by a window here, and it's really starting to pour down outside.
Oh, really?
I hope it doesn't. I'm going to move back a little so to have as little rain noise leak into the mic as possible. So yeah, I really enjoyed that that Sega Mega Drive game. I have a memory of like a motorcycle stage where you could co-op, and one player could drive the motorcycle out of first-person view, and the other one could shoot dinosaur hunters or something like that. I've never found that game as an adult, so I just have that really cool memory of the game. And
I find it's almost better when you have memories like that. Sometimes you go back and play these games as an adult and you're sorely disappointed, but those memories can be very magical.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna stick to the memory. Okay, so leading up to the point where you're at now, you at some point got into playing video games.
Yeah.
I assume. How did that happen? How did you get into gaming?
I really started playing video games as a very young kid. my father actually got me into it, playing the original regular Nintendo Super Mario platformer. But I was always a console gamer as a kid, more Nintendo than anything else. And up until the point I was in middle school, I started playing my first computer games. And my first real exposure was actually with Diablo series, and StarCraft. And they had a really profound impact on me in that suddenly I had a ticket into this vast world, this global society of gamers, that I could be instantaneously connected with people in France or Japan or Korea or Greece or wherever these players hailed from, and we could play in real time and share a hobby. And that struck me as something that was very novel. And I saw the opportunity to improve people's lives through gaming in a way that had not been done before. And that really interested me, and I wanted a little more control over being able to facilitate that and bring together people who are like-minded. So by the time we started playing Diablo 2, we formed our first guild or clan, if you will. And it was comprised mostly of people that I knew in real life, and then some people we had met online. But it was sort of a proving ground for me to see that I could bring people together and that they could play together, and I could connect people. So it started getting much bigger by the time World of Warcraft came around, and I got involved in World of Warcraft from the get-go, as they call it, vanilla World of Warcraft. And we formed a guild, and at our height, we had about 70 people in the guild, which is respectable. It's not huge. But at this point, we had started connecting people, and I actually met a few people strictly through WoW that lived close but not very close. They lived in Massachusetts, and I'm from New York. But we actually met, and we became very very close friends. I actually attended their wedding, and we still are very close. And that really, again, it resonates with me that you can connect with people that you would have no other way of meeting and would never cross paths with through the shared hobby and through the wonder of the internet. And so we kept with it, and we transitioned eventually to EVE Online. And in EVE Online, we actually founded, they're called corporations, the player organizations there. We founded a corporation which grew into a group of corporations called an alliance. And in our heyday on EVE Online, we ended up with upwards of 400 people in our alliance, which in EVE terms is actually not huge, but again, it's a respectable number. And at that point, we finally had become an international community. And we still have members with us today that are from overseas. We have Dutch players, we have German players, we have South African players, Australian players. And so we were very strong in EVE for a while, but I still had reached a stumbling block in that we were losing players when they would leave EVE Online. And EVE Online requires a really big time commitment, so it doesn't appeal to everyone. And so when people would leave, they'd leave the community, and I didn't like that. Right? I wanted a way to keep people together regardless of where they were. So we rebranded in November of 2014. We rebranded as Paleo Gaming, and we started to diversify into multiple games and bring people together and keep people together. We created a single TeamSpeak channel that had sub-channels for various games where people could just come hang out if they weren't actively playing and meet other people. We started dabbling in social media with a Twitter page and a Facebook page and all that stuff. And at that point, I decided I wanted to take it to the next level and incorporate as a corporation, which we actually did just this past week, with the hope of branching out into esports.
Okay, so pretty much the whole story from Diablo to Paleo Gaming right there. So was the EVE Online experience like extra important in showing the capability, considering the amount of players you were able to connect with each other?
Yeah, I really learned a lot in EVE Online, because EVE Online was the first time it got too big for just me to control. When you're running a guild of about 70 people, which is still becoming a bit of a handful, you still can get to know everyone individually. You can know when they have problems. You can know when they're doing well. When you start getting to about 400 players, it becomes too much for one player to keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on. But EVE provided a unique opportunity in that the way their player organizations are set up is alliances are sort of guilds for guilds, in that the individual corporations are their own guilds that are completely self-sufficient and able to impose their own rules, taxes on players, things like that. And then the alliance has its own upper level of organization. So my corporation had at most about 60 or 70 players, and then the remainder of the 400 was split among multiple corporations. So I now just needed to keep track of the CEOs of those corporations, and they kept track of the corporations for me. So
it's like the European Union.
Right. It taught me to, A, be able to rely on other players, and it taught me a lot about the corporate structure. People sometimes call EVE Online the spreadsheet game, but it really is like running a corporation. And so I learned a lot about how to run a corporation by playing EVE Online, from a board of directors that I could rely on for specialized areas of expertise. You know, there was one guy that was really good at knowing how to set up mining ventures. There was one guy that was really good at security ventures. There's another guy at all-out warfare and so on and so forth. Another guy at industry, etc. So being able to rely on them for their individual areas of expertise and letting them run projects and divisions and things like that, it really showed me that the strength of a community comes in unlocking the power of its people. And that's what I strive to do now in Paleo Gaming, is when I see the opportunity for a player to shine, to take it to the next level, to get more involved in to move from just the community aspect to the corporation aspect, to either run a server or act as a moderator or a team captain or things like that. I'm quick to give them the opportunity to shine, because I know that that's what makes a community strong.
So to sum it up, you basically learned how to manage a corporation by playing EVE Online.
Precisely.
Man, people are underestimating video games still.
It's true.
So this alliance, is that the SMIMC?
Yes, that is correct. The SMIMC Alliance.
You mentioned it in an old email. I googled that. I googled the name and EVE Online, and I found a page on some community where you had like an info page about your community.
We did.
With all the things that you did. Yeah. It's a militarized industrial alliance that dabbles in every aspect of EVE with plans for ultimate sovereignty.
Yes.
So you're still out there. As SMIMC.
The alliance still exists. I made sure we left Holding Corps in case we want to go back. A lot of the players moved on, again, because it's a very large time commitment. There are still some players that do play, though. Ezra Nabali is the in-game name of our TeamSpeak 3 moderator, who runs the channel, and he still has a very strong presence in EVE Online, and plays with some of the old crew.
I've heard a lot of people talk, saying nice things about EVE Online as a game. I've never played it myself.
It's fantastic, it really is. I miss it sometimes, but it's hard because to stay relevant in EVE Online, there is a huge time investment or monetary investment, one or the other you have to make. I started out playing EVE in graduate school when I had a lot of free time on my hands, and I didn't have to pay that much. I mean, if you're good at EVE and you've got the time, you don't even have to pay the subscription fee, because you can sustain your gameplay, your game time with in-game currency. But and I used to do that until it got to a point where I started working, and at that point I didn't have the time to do that anymore, so I had to rely on payment again, and then my time evaporated even further, and so at that point I was paying for a game I wasn't playing, and I couldn't justify it anymore.
Yeah.
But it is a fantastic game, and if I had more time on my hands, I'd still be playing without a doubt.
Yeah, I get the sense that I missed out on something that is pretty much impossible to get on board with now.
You know, that's not necessarily the case. I mean, one of the things I really liked about EVE Online, even though there is this really funny graphic that's out there of veteran players pushing new players off this really steep cliff, that's the learning curve of EVE Online. And it's true, the learning curve is daunting, but as a new player, if you join a player corporation and they take you under their wing, there's actually a lot you can do from day one. The way the game works and the way it balances, you could be in a small starter ship and you haven't gained the skills yet that you need to fly a larger ship, but you still have a place in the corporation because of these mass space battles between thousands of players. Your ship is small enough that the big ships actually can't hit you because the speed and size of your craft. You can't do much to them, but what happens is you have dogfights between smaller frigates while the battleships, you know, rain death on each other, and the capital ships rain death on everyone, and it creates this hierarchy within the game that players who fly frigates never become invalidated. And so a new player has an option where they can still be a wheel in the machine, a cog in the machine, and they can actually still benefit the corporation and feel like they're part of something bigger.
Yeah, seems nice.
That's a trend I'm actually seeing more and more in the gaming industry, where it used to be, I remember playing WoW, and you know, a new player would come in and want to play with you, but everyone else is already a higher level, so you then had the option of, I'm going to make a new character and start over. I'm going to bring my high-level character in, and it's going to basically take all the challenge and fun out of the game just to try to power level you in. And in the meantime, I'm no longer experiencing new content. Or we're just going to make you play on your own until you catch up to us and can play the content with us. And I didn't think that was a very efficient or intelligent model, honestly. I think that there should be a carrot to chase. I think that there should be some sort of barrier to new players that they need to invest some sort of time and energy into. But I also don't think that they should be isolated from veteran players. I think that you should give them a method of stepping in and playing with their friends who are already established to encourage them to want to keep playing. And certain games like Star Trek Online have allowed sort of level matching opportunities, which have worked really well. Guild Wars 2 had an opposite sort of effect where higher level players would get dropped down to a lower cap and their abilities would scale accordingly, or they would lose access to higher level abilities. So that it would keep it challenging even for the higher level player because they're playing with a handicap, and it would allow them to incentivize them to still come play with their newer playing members. I'm seeing that more and more in games, and I think that's a very smart way to appeal to new players that feel like they quote-unquote missed the boat, maybe, to get involved at a later stage.
So maybe I can become an MMO guy after all.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I've always been that new guy, you know? Hey, what's this cool game you're all playing? Okay, well, you're level 136. Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, it's really, most experiences like that are only going to be as good as the organization that you join, and that's why these games have become very social experiences, and they're rooted in their social experience. And so for many players, unless you're playing a console game for single player, most of these players are playing for the social aspect. Whatever guild you or clan or tribe or whatever they call it that you join really defines your player experience. And so it's about finding a good community. And that's, to bring it back to our stories, so to speak, that's part of our core mindset when we go into this, our core values, is building a strong, safe space community that players feel very comfortable in which they will now follow the community from game to game as they play it. You know, we'll bring in a player who plays League of Legends, for example, and he'll find out we have this dedicated ARC server that only the community can join. And he'll say, oh, I read about ARC. That looks really cool. And we say, well, come on in. And the first day they come in, we'll give them some tools to get started. We'll show them the ropes. And so it creates a really great experience for the players as they move into these games that they might not have tried otherwise, but because now they know their friends play, they come in and play. And from a business development standpoint, that's smart business for us because you end up creating a sort of insular space where players don't go anywhere else anymore. They don't look for other guilds or other clans. They're very happy where they are. They follow you game to game, and now you sort of have access to a captive audience, which will eventually become very appealing for potential advertisers and sponsors.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like a really good idea. So, and that's like the key difference if we look at Paleo as just a community and not the like esport organization. The key difference between what you did before and now is that you're now involved in many games instead of just being a community for a single game.
It's true.
So what games are you involved in right now?
Right now, our strongest presence is split between two games, which is League of Legends, where we're really trying to get a foothold in the esports community, and Ark Survival Evolved, which is the first dedicated private server that we're hosting. We did also start hosting a Minecraft server, which is slowly getting its footing, and we're looking to expand into that. Mm-hmm. We have a lesser presence in games like Guild Wars 2, Arcade. There's this new game, Blade and Soul, which just came out that we have a handful of players that are trying out and playing. But one of the things I try to do is to be as approachable to the players as possible, and plenty of times a player will come to me and say, "Hey, I played this cool game. I played this game of Hawking. Can we get involved in Hawking?" I'll say, "Oh yeah, sure," and we'll start playing. We'll try to establish a foothold. But most of those games end up with 5 to 10 players at any given time. Whereas in a game like Eve, we'll have upwards of 3 to 5 dozen players, and it'll be a much more active community where you can always find people on.
So, how many players or like active community members are you at the moment?
Well, that's a good question. It's hard almost to put our finger on it because we have such a diversified palette right now of games. If I had to take a wild guess, I'd say right now, actively, we probably have about 120 to 130 members of the community spread among a dozen games. But not everyone is always using the TeamSpeak, or they only use it when they really have a reason to. Some people stick to their text chat because they feel more comfortable with it in their various games. As an example, we do have a small presence in the Star Trek Online community. We have about 30 players, and they don't use the TeamSpeak because Star Trek has a built-in voice communication potential, and they don't play anything other than Star Trek because either they don't have the time to or they don't have the interest to. And so they've created sort of an insular pocket. And one of the stumbling blocks that we are working to fix is getting the players to make that step beyond the insulated game worlds and into the larger world of Paleo Gaming, which we've seen progress recently, but it can be hard. People sometimes, they're not playing to be part of a larger community, they're playing to be part of a small community. They like the intimate, small community that they're a part of. And so they very much like being part of, in Star Trek, it's the 112th Fleet. They like being part of the 112th Fleet, but they don't necessarily want to or desire to be part of anything larger than that as far as Paleo Gaming. So we're trying to come up with clever ways of incentivizing them through in-game rewards and things like that to now get more involved in the community at large and use the TeamSpeak channel often, go to the website, check out what sort of events are coming up, things like that.
So, in all this, how much gaming do you actually get to do nowadays? Do you ever play a game, or are you just trying to get all these pieces to
The last few weeks I haven't
together?
gotten to play much. I keep telling myself that once I lay the infrastructure, I'll have a little more free time to play. It's been a bit of a culture shock for me. Up to this point, since we've been strictly a community, I've been able to just live, in the community and play day to day with everyone and really listen to everything that's going on. But I knew that if I wanted us to grow, I'd have to make some sacrifices. And so now business development and networking and cultivating opportunities to become profitable has become my focus. And I'm relying on a really stellar leadership team that I've put together to help me actually have a presence in the games that we play. But again, I'm hoping once we get the next couple weeks, maybe the next 2 months even, because I'm going to be involved very heavily in roster changes for the league ranked teams. But once that period passes, I think I'll have more time to unwind a little bit and play and sort of walk among the populace again.
Because that has to be a big difference between, you know, Paleo and like the alliance of EVE or like World of Warcraft. I imagine that back then you were being a community by actively playing the game, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I played a lot back then. And again, when you're only playing one game and you only have 70 people to worry about, and they're the only people you have to worry about, it's a lot easier to manage. Taking that larger step, and again, EVE was a good training ground for me because now all of a sudden I didn't have access to everyone all the time, you know? So that you understand the mechanics, when you have an alliance, you actually have your alliance chat as a separate chat channel. So you've got your corporate chat, which is like a guild chat, and then your private and local and all that other stuff, and the individual channels you make. So we tried to get people to be as active as possible in Alliance Chat, but some people were just very happy being part of their individual corporation, and they thought it was great that their corporation was part of the Alliance, but they personally didn't want to interact with anyone outside their corporation, which is now what we're seeing mirrored in the fact that we have all these games. I like to think of it almost as if it's that same construct, that these games are the various corporations, and Paleo Gaming is the Alliance. And so some people want to stay within their corporation and not take that step into a bigger world, whereas other people are very, very hungry to step into the bigger world and really like the fact that they now have access to this wider group of players across many different games and many different mindsets.
And is your goal to please both those groups, or do you want to like bring the group that just want to stay in one game into the rest? If you understand
that's
the
a good, yeah, no, that's a really good question, actually. I don't want to drag anyone kicking and screaming because part of our core values is to let people play the way they want to play, as long as it doesn't step on anyone else's toes. And that's where you start to potentially step on people's toes. So the answer is that's why my approach isn't punishment. My approach isn't, if you're not going to be active, we don't want you as part of the community. Instead, I'm seeking to incentivize that participation. So if you are very happy just playing, for example, ARC Survival Evolved, and you don't want to be on the TeamSpeak, you just want to chat with people in-game via text, and only play ARC and never play anything else, that's fine. And I'm not going to tell you that you're playing incorrectly or you should be doing something else. I think that's great if you're happy. But what I will do is say, all right, we'll hold, you know, a special TeamSpeak-only giveaway for an item in ARC. And now you're incentivized to use the TeamSpeak because you want that item to somehow give you an edge in the game or whatever the case may be. So now I'm drawing people into the TeamSpeak channel that might not otherwise use it. And when they're there, the hope and the plan is that they go, oh, this is actually really cool and really convenient. I think I'm just going to start using it. And some people will say, you know what, I don't want the item, and I feel uncomfortable talking to people and whatever else, and they just won't. And that's fine, too. You know, I plan on unlocking the power of our people, and I understand people will have different play styles and different needs and different desires for what they want out of a community and out of a game. So I want to find a happy medium where I encourage the participation at the higher level, but I don't require it.
Yeah, that sounds like a cool idea, you know, because when you are online, even whether it be gaming or just the internet overall, you might very well run into bad attitudes, if you catch my drift. In gaming, there's more often than not, like in League of Legends, you can really get your ass handed to you for not being a superstar.
Yeah, it's in some ways it's an amazing community, and in some ways it's the worst community I've ever played in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I say that because I truly believe that most of the people that play League of Legends aren't toxic people. But the people who are toxic are so toxic, they redefined the term. And they just said they deserve trophies for how toxic they are.
Yeah.
You know, playing League of Legends is the first time I've ever had another player tell me that they wished I got cancer because we lost the game. And it's not even that we didn't perform well. We just lost the game and they just flipped out. So it was a very new and eye-opening experience for me. And yeah, that's part of the benefit. You join an organization like Paleo Gaming to not have to play with those people.
Yeah, that will get you some people, I imagine. Just that fact. I mean, did you catch up on that whole Forgiven incident, like the EU Super ADC in the LCS?
No, I actually didn't.
He got banned for like 4 weeks or something, just right before playoffs, for being toxic in solo queue. And the funny thing about the story is that Riot actually has statistics to really point out not only people that are toxic, but people that are so insanely toxic. Like they have this, I think it was 2.5% of all toxic players are categorized in their own group, which is like the super toxic people.
Yeah. I will say, though, Riot has really impressed me. I think they've approached social gaming with an unprecedented level of intolerance for intolerance, so to speak. They really crack down and they stand by punishing players for racial slurs, for gender-based slurs, for homophobic remarks. They really come down on them. I think that's a great message to send, and it's a message that I think a lot of gaming companies are afraid to send. They don't want to scare away potential players, and Riot has really taken the stance of, if you act this way, we don't want you playing our game. And I really respect that, and I think it really makes them stand out among production companies and studios as being unique and having a really strong moral compass. And I really I give them props for that.
Yeah, I agree. I actually, that particular incident with Forgiven really made me feel the same way about Riot. Okay, here's the 2015 Spring Split MVP has been classified as this super toxic player in solo queue. No question about it. Ban him at a crucial point in the season for Gambit Gaming, who didn't reach playoffs, by the way. Might very well be because they lost their star player.
Yeah, I think that's a really bold move, and I really stand behind Riot standing behind their core values. So many companies are quick to short sell their values when they see a potential for loss of revenue, and they worry about the bottom line. And for Riot, the bottom line is their morals, really, which is good.
Yeah, I agree. And to like reflect the other part of the community than the toxic players, I have to say, like, just looking at esports fans, I think if you compare them to some of the fans of traditional sports, I think esport fans are just great. I follow a lot of soccer here in Sweden, and that can be really unpleasant, you know, to just sit among like 10 to 12,000 people who are just furious, angry at the other team to an insane extent. And then I went to see the European LCS finals here in Stockholm, and everybody was just rooting for every team as long as they played well. Just seeing good esports just made everybody happy and just scream out. And if you look at Worlds, it's like, yeah, everyone chants the name of the winner because it was so nice to see them win. Right. And then they chant the name of the losers because they played so well. I mean, it's really uplifting, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I look, I think with anything else, you have a very diversified fan base, and I think just like traditional sports, you have a very diversified fan base also. You have people that are really interested in seeing good games, and people who are die hard for their team, and you know, you have those fans that yell at their team when they lose. You know, I think you run the whole gambit. But I think what is a little unique with esports in particular is that it is so new. and has only recently become relevant, that I think the players are just so happy, so relieved that esports is being recognized and that video games are being recognized as relevant and not as a waste of time or a stupid hobby, but as A, a potential career choice, B, as just something that is not a waste of time, that I think they're just very happy to see that there is a stage. You know, they're just so happy to be there. Everybody's just so happy to be there and so happy that it exists that I think right now you're just seeing overwhelming positivity. Hopefully that'll last. I don't know how long you can ride that train. I think that as it becomes sort of yesterday's news, you will see a transition more towards the traditional sports fans where they run the whole gambit. But I think right now, because we are in a brave new world, I think everyone's just excited to be there right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So talking about esports, when did you decide to go into that direction with Paleo Gaming, to actually have competitive teams?
You know, it's funny. At first I really didn't. At first I wasn't thinking that at all. I was really focused on building the community. And I was streaming one day and we ended up with something like 30 viewers or something like that, which is rare for us. We're still young, and it's, you know, it's hard for us to generate more than 14 to 15 viewers at a time. And when I saw that, I just was shocked. I was playing solo queue at the time, and I had the Twitter account already. This was during Season 4 when I was trying to make it to Gold. I started Season 4 Bronze 5, and I finished Gold 5. And as I was in Silver and climbing my way up, suddenly I found myself having a handful, 3 to 5 to eventually 10, 12 followers who would tweet when I was streaming and who would, you know, hype me up and tweet to me that I was going to make gold and whatever else. And I said, you know, there's this interest here that I did not anticipate in just seeing me as a player and Paleo Gaming as an entity succeed. And so I said, why don't we try? This was leading up to really forming, you know, the community as it stands. I said, why don't we try to launch a few ranked teams? We'll compete in some online tournaments and see what sort of feedback we get. And we got amazingly positive feedback. We ended up creating some really good relationships, for example, with the LOL History app. Yeah. The LOL History app is a great app, and they're an affiliate of ours. And we plug each other constantly on social media. We participate in their tournaments. They're always happy to see us. When we compete in other tournaments, they'll show up on the stream and plug us and hype us on Twitter. And I found that we have generated a lot of interest and a lot of positive feedback and support from the community at large. And I said, you know what? There's money on the table here, and that money can open up new opportunities for the community in general. You know, if we become profitable, we can run more servers, we can do more things, we can eventually have a travel team, we can do all this stuff that we couldn't do if we don't make money. And I saw there was an opportunity there to make money. And so I said, let's do it. Let's really start to form teams and be competitive and get our name out there and stream and do things like that. And last year was more laying the groundwork, which we did, and we saw that we can do it. This year is going to be about kicking it up a notch and competing a little harder, a little more often, getting a set streaming schedule down. I'd like it to get to a point where we stream almost every day, if not every day, and building solid teams that hopefully will perform very well in Season 6.
Exciting. It's super interesting because when you do follow the LCS, you almost get the sense of that competitive, professional competitive gameplay is very far away. You know, there's a very few selected people who are that insanely good, and they get to play at Riot's own stage, like at least in League of Legends. I think in like Counter-Strike Global Offensive there's this bigger online presence overall, even in the really professional scene, but in League of Legends it's like very in-house of Riot. So I was actually excited to find that like the LOL History app holding online tournaments and see teams like Paleo just really going competitive without having to be up there on the top already, you know?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of teams come from these humble beginnings, and I'd like to think I have realistic goals for the community. I know we're not going to go pro overnight. Right now, I'm trying to put together a local New York-based competition team that will compete on local stages. And that's going to be a hard sort of barrier to break through, but it's doable. And my strategy for recruitment is not to try to find the pro players, because right now we just can't afford to pay them, but to find players that should be pro or are going to be going pro and just aren't there yet, and to give them an opportunity to get seen and get their name out there, knowing that we'll probably lose them. And I'm okay with that. If you know, they move up, I'll be happy that they move up. And if that can happen, you know, this is where my mind is. If that can happen, then the next step is we become very popular among players at that threshold who want to get noticed, who want to get scouted. And so we'll attract more and more talent, and as we attract more talent, we should start winning more and more of these tournaments, which will attract sponsorship, which will create money. And once we have that money, we can then go the next step and say, all right, now we're going to hire some pro-level players, and that's how you break the barrier, in my mind. That is the easiest way to do that.
It sounds like a reasonable plan, I have to say, because also, let's say you get to the point where like 3 or 4 future superstars get scouted in Paleo Gaming. Only that brings a really good association with your name. Like, okay, this team has a tendency to pick up great talent.
I mean, look, diehard football fans watch college games. They just do. They know that that's where the next generation's coming from, and they love that feeling of, I watched him before he was big. You know, I saw it happen. I saw that excitement as he got drafted to an NFL team, and he starts, you know, to play really well, and eventually he wins a Super Bowl or something. They like that feeling of, I watched them come up. It creates almost an ownership. I think that's really what defines a fan, is this feeling of ownership of your team. And ownership of players also. And so if Paleo Gaming can become a place that becomes what a college football team would be to esports fans, I think that that'll be the first step into a bigger world for us, that we can take those next steps and eventually move up into the world of pro gaming.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like just a natural trajectory for the esports world to go in, you know. As the sport grows, you're gonna have more and more really talented players, because you're gonna have more players overall. People are gonna want to do this. The more people that see other people do this, the more people are gonna want to do it. The more people are gonna get really good at it. And one next step is just finding good talent. I mean, if you look at traditional sports, they have whole other mechanisms in place, I feel, for scouting new talent and then developing that talent. You know, because they've been doing this thing for such a long time.
Yeah.
So eventually that's gotta happen for esports as well. It's probably already happening to some extent. I have no insight in how big esport organizations actually work, but
I've been doing a lot of research, and they're applying this sort of paintbrush for sports. You're getting companies like Red Bull, for example, that are sending scouts to collegiate level games to scout out teams and then sponsoring them. Team Supernova, that we have played with often, you know, we're friends of Team Supernova, and we always root for them, and I love to retweet when they excel. And they were Red Bull sponsored because Red Bull sent out scouts and saw them and offered them sponsorship. So they're trying to apply this template that they use for sports to esports. It's just hasn't really caught on yet, but it's happening. As esports is proving to be more and more profitable, more and more companies are getting involved, and they're turning to the sports industry as a sort of litmus test of this is how you scout, and you can do it similarly in esports, and they're going to start doing that more and more. And as they do that, you start to, again, it becomes a self-fed sort of machine, that the more scouts you have out there that are looking to sponsor teams, the more teams that are moving up in the ranks of the pro world, the more people start to dream about being a pro gamer, the more teams start compete at the collegiate level, and it just it sort of becomes an avalanche, and that's what we're seeing, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm convinced that the European LCS is something that's gonna have to change. You know, when it comes to the structure, to have like one league for an entire continent as Europe. I mean, I hope and I really think that not before too long we're going to see more domestic leagues, or like regional, like, you know, Northern Europe, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Southern Europe, who then ultimately meet in like a European Champions League or something.
I think that's a natural progression. I don't think you're going to have major factionalization early. I do think that you will likely end up with an East and Western Europe regional scene. I don't know when. I haven't looked at the exact numbers of players that are playing in the European servers, but I do think that it is inevitable that you will have this central division of Eastern and Western Europe will be the first thing that we see. I don't know that they'll divide it up much more than that, because I doubt they'll divide it, for example, the North American scene. You have a large pool of players there. But I think at some point you may have an Eastern and Western Europe division. I think that makes sense.
It would be cool to have like a Swedish League of Legends league. That would be awesome.
Well, you know, I think what you're going to see before you see league dividing up into different servers, I think what you're going to see is more regional level tournaments that are being hosted by local companies that are getting involved in esports. I'll tell you that at some point, part of our growth plan is for Paleo Gaming to host tournaments in New York, because the truth of the matter is most of the staged tournaments are localized to certain regions here in America. You have California as a huge area of tournaments, because that's where Riot is headquartered, obviously. You have Virginia, actually. They have a very strong collegiate level number of tournaments. I know Virginia Tech has their collegiate teams and so on and so forth. So you are seeing this localization start to happen for tournaments and stuff. And I think that'll happen in Europe before they even consider dividing up the server. I think you're going to see a lot more regional focus from companies that are sponsoring tournaments and things like that.
Well, that makes sense. So, I mean, would you say that your goal eventually is to take Paleo Gaming as an esport organization to the top?
Eventually. Again, I try to keep my goals realistic. I try to build sort of what I call a ladder to success, rung by rung. And so the first rung is to create an audience, which we will do by competing in these online tournaments, starting to break out into the more local tournaments. Once you have an audience, you have to find a way to mine that audience for capital to support growing the business through things like sponsorship and advertising, subscriptions, whatever the case may be. You know, that's something that we'll assess as we start to see what sort of interest there is, merchandising, things like that. And from there, the next step becomes, all right, now we can maybe have a travel team, now we can open more servers, now we can do things like that. I don't see us breaking into the pro scene anytime soon. I would call that maybe a 5 to 10 year goal. In the next 1 to 3 years, the goal will be to have a viable team that can travel maybe just up and down the East Coast, competing on stage, that we can get a merchandise product line out, that we can, maybe I'll say a 3 year goal, we should get our first decent sized sponsorship. I think that would be a good goal for the next 3 years.
Okay, so when you look at esport organizations or esport teams, we're very used to looking at players. We're becoming very used in Europe and in North America to look at coaches as well, and analysts, and talk about strategy, picks and bans, individual play, and how these things can lead to success, but when it comes to your role as the owner of the organization, or like the leader of the organization, what would you say are key qualities for you if you want to be successful and reach those goals, whether it be your first year goal, your 1 to 3 year goal, or eventually that?
If I had to pick probably the 5 most important traits, I would say patience. These things don't happen overnight. Discipline. You have to create an organizational plan, and you have to take it step by step and not deviate so much from that plan. I would say some sort of social aptitude. You know, my job as president or CEO of Paleo Gaming is largely to connect people and to cultivate relationships with potential business partners, affiliates, etc. You want to have good organizational skills, not only to do things like, for example, balance the books of the company, but also to be able to divvy out responsibility to a leadership team beneath you, because, again, if you want to grow, you'll get to a point, wherever that point may be, you will get to a point, you will reach a point where you just can't manage it all alone. You need to create a hierarchy at that point. And I would say that the 5th most important aspect for someone in my position would be enthusiasm and a positive energy, because it's easy to run a corporation when it's succeeding. It's difficult to run a corporation when it's young and not doing anything yet, or when you hit a rough patch, and rough patches will come, and your team, both your leadership team and your whole community, is going to look to you as the head of the organization when that happens and say, what now? And you need to be able to roll with the punches and just say, everything in life is an opportunity. There's no such thing as a failure. As far as I'm concerned, it's all just potential opportunities. And when we come up against a roadblock, we flex and we figure out a way around it, over it, or through it.
Very interesting. I think it's, like I said before we actually started, I think it's really, really interesting to talk to someone who's looking at it from your perspective, because I tend to look at the game from completely different perspectives. Like I said, you look at the individual players and the strategy of the gameplay. So for me, this is all very very interesting. So as that leader, which qualities would you say are your strongest ones?
I would have to say that patience is one of my strongest qualities, and that enthusiasm, that positive outlook. I do bring a lot of discipline from my martial arts background, and but definitely it's about having the positive outlook to pick up the community when they're down, because, again, my philosophy is in unlocking the power of our players. So I know that a lot of the skills that I need, I can also foster in my leadership team. But where they really need me to come through is when things get hard and it falls on their shoulders, because it's very easy to feel a personal degree of failure sometimes when things don't work. So to have someone that is the boss, basically, that when things go bad and you expect them to be upset, for them to come in and say, not a problem, we got this, you got this, pick yourself up, keep going, this is how we do it. And having that patience to understand that you're not going to build Rome in a day, that I think is probably my best qualities.
Okay. So my last question that I've jotted down before this is, you were talking about building that audience and getting people into Paleo Gaming, both when it comes to just being a gaming community for a variety of games, and also when it comes to being an esports organization. You need the people. So for those who might watch this video or find Paleo Gaming in any other way than already knowing you, how would you say that they can get involved with Paleo Gaming? Where can they connect with you, follow you, and how?
So the easiest way to get hold of us is obviously through our website, www.paleogaming.com. From there, that is the central hub of our community. It connects you to our twitch.tv page. It connects you to our Facebook page, to our YouTube page, to our Twitter accounts. That is definitely a place to start. You can easily email us in multiple places on the website. Let us know if you want to get involved, and from there we can hook them up on our TeamSpeak 3 account, the server that they can talk to other people. They can try it out and see if it's for them. They can get involved in our various servers. We also use it to list upcoming events, which are other opportunities for them to connect with us. So definitely the easiest way to get a hold of us right now, our website, www.paleogaming.com.
Right. So we're definitely going to link that in the video description to get people where they need to go. So before we wrap things up here, is there anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit about you guys and where you fit into all this. One of the things I've realized as far as creating a marketable company, again, there is a dichotomy between the community and the company.
Mm-hmm.
The website exists as a central hub to connect people, but you need to bring them to that place in order to get them involved. And so one of the main goals for this coming year is to start generating regular content on the webpage in the form of constantly updating upcoming events that people will always check in day to day to find out what sort of events are coming up, to create certain events that revolve around the webpage, things like scavenger hunts, etc., whatever the case may be. And the biggest thing I want to start doing is creating regular content on the page in the form of videos, podcasts, testimonials, whatever the case may be, that people will constantly come because they want to see the update of the week. Driving that traffic to the webpage creates a marketing opportunity for would-be investors to advertise on the website and or sponsor Paleo Gaming. And in order to do that, to drive up that traffic, you need to create regular content.
Yeah. And I personally am very much looking forward to being able to work with you guys in any way that I can. By sitting here talking or just editing videos. It's a tough job. You gotta press that record button.
Well, we're very excited to have you here, and you know, full cooperation obviously caught my eye. That's why I reached out to you guys. I think that you are filling a very specific niche in the community that, in the esports community, there really isn't a lot of right now, actually. Pure analysts who are just looking and recording videos. You have commentators and stuff, which is great, and they're hugely valuable to the community of esports in general. But as far as post-game analysts just looking at the scene and sort of talking people through, hey, this is what's happening and here's what it really means, there's not a lot of that. And I think you guys fill a really specific niche, and we're excited to partner with full cooperation here at Paleo Gaming to provide that to our audience.
Yeah. It will be really fun. Like I said before, I'm really looking forward to it, and maybe see if we can add some new elements to the Paleo Gaming community with our background. Mainly we have my comrade Zlatan Show, as he calls himself, who is a superb Counter-Strike Global Offensive player.
Wow.
And is more than able to give people a lot of insight into that game and how to play it and look at it and stuff like that. So maybe we can get some Counter-Strike Global Offensive things on to Paleo Gaming as well. We'll see, or maybe we'll just stick to what we know here.
Yeah, again, I'm always looking for opportunities to diversify our gaming portfolio.
Yeah, so in order to not make this way too long, we could probably talk for a few more hours, but I want to say it's been great finally talking to you, not just emailing. It's been really interesting to learn about Paleo Gaming, the history of it, and what it really does. And it's been great to kick this full cooperation between the two of us off for real.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure, John.
So we're just gonna say that to anybody that watches this, I hope you do what you do with all the videos that you watch and enjoy. You hit that like button, you subscribe it, you click that Paleo Gaming link to their website in the description box, and really check this community out for real. And is there anything you want to say, Dan, before we shut things down?
Yeah, we look forward to playing with you, viewers out there, and I look forward to speaking to you again, John.
Yeah, we'll do it soon. So just come on over, guys. Paleo Gaming is where the action is. And if you want to see more video material on League of Legends or esports or just gaming in general, check out paleogaming.com. Check out Full Cooperation. And yeah, thanks for watching. And thanks for talking to me, Dan. Bye-bye.